The protest continues for Howard University students. For months, student demonstrators have been calling attention to health and safety concerns for life on campus. Complaints of mold and mice and roaches has been fueling the longest protest in the institution's history. More than 100 students are occupying a facility at the center of campus, according to protesters, and dozens more are sleeping in tents outside. They're calling on the administration to remedy the housing situation as well as restore student, faculty, and alumni positions on the Board of Trustees. According to a new piece in the Washington Post, the Howard administration should listen. At the nation's premier HBCU, these student protesters could be the next generation of black leaders. Leadership often requires revolution, writes Don Calloway. The worst thing Howard can do is miss the moment by ignoring his students or suppressing their voices. Joining me now is Don Calloway, founder of National Voter Protection Action Fund and an HBCU alum, Alabama A&M, if I'm not mistaken, sir. How are you?
I'm good, my brother. Always a pleasure to be with you, man.
Good. I'm glad you're here. So give our viewers a thrust of your piece and what you're trying to get across.
The short story is that the Howard University Blackburn takeover students are engaging in a long tradition of social protest at HBCUs. In short, this is what we do. Ask your favorite HBCU grad in your life, and I'm sure that they can point to a very visceral moment of social protest on their yard. They can point to what they were fussing about, what demands they were seeking, and what the ultimate resolution was. I certainly was a part of one at Alabama A&M, Andrew Gillum at Florida A&M, Stacey Abrams at Spelman College. Heck, Samuel L. Jackson was expelled from Morehouse College for protesting the curriculum and ended up taking the Board of Trustee hostage at Morehouse in 1968. And so there is a long history of social protest at HBCUs that I'm so proud to frankly see the Howard students engaging in, but ultimately it leads to an enhanced quality of life across the board at HBCUs. And it's extraordinarily important that we recognize not only do HBCUs produce black leadership, they produce American leadership, and a substantial part of American leadership and the tradition of American leadership is the ability to protest, and you learn the skills of protest outside of the fear of white authoritarian backlash, and that is the magic of an HBCU. So I applaud what these students are doing. Their cause is righteous. Their concerns have not been heard for many years now, and I'm just happy to see this happening at the Mecca.
What do you think the administration at Howard should be doing that they are not doing right now or have not already done?
The first thing they've got to do is just listen to the students. And I tried to make that clear in the piece in the Washington Post. There is no good faith argument about why President Frederick should be delaying sitting down with these student leaders, should not be willing to meet with these students as long as they are nonviolent and their demands are made in good faith. And to date, Howard University has not, as a leadership, sat down with these students, and the students are very vocal about that fact. That to me is a failure, and it's an abdication.
I want to make sure we clear something up. Wasn't there a meeting early on in October between the administration and some of the protesters, or are we saying that they haven't met since then?
They haven't met since then. There was one meeting very early on after several weeks of protests, and they have not met since then. And they're demanding that the students clear up the Blackburn takeover. Some operations at the Blackburn Student Center, such as the Sodexo Marriott dining services, have had to be shut down. Unfortunately, some people have lost jobs as a result of the protest because of the interruption of operations at the Student Center. But for the most part, the president has not sat down with the student protesters going forward. And I think that the students are protesting in good faith, and they are disrupting institutional operations, which is what protest is supposed to do.
As we pointed out on the show last night, the administration says that they are responding, that they are undergoing inspections to make sure that things are safe and sanitary for the students to go back, that they have identified 30 or 40 rooms where there was mold in those rooms, which is a small portion of the 3,000 or so rooms that are on the campus. They say that they are doing things. Do you think that there needs to just be a public moment of administrative contrition to the students that says, we know that this won't break until we give you a win?
Well, that's part of it. There should be a moment of reconciliation between students and administration, but far more importantly, there has to be a remediation of the actual conditions in the dorms right now. And we know that it's not the majority of dorms. It's about 40 rooms where we've seen mice and flooding and mold and actual mushrooms, which is abhorrent. That's not the majority of dorm rooms. But the students are talking about a couple of things which I think are being swept under the rug by some of the more salacious allegations. First of all, they're talking about a lack of student, alumni, and present faculty representation on the board of trustees. And they believe that having those crucial voices in the leadership at the governing body level would have prevented a lot of the problems that we're seeing right now with respect to student life. So the administration has not addressed a plan for that type of representation at the board level. Second of all, students are saying right now that they would like to see a plan for housing. After COVID, and COVID was hard on every institution in this country, particularly HBCUs, but students are saying that they have not seen an adequate housing plan to house freshmen post-COVID. There's not sufficient housing. Students are having to go out and rent apartments in this extraordinarily expensive DC housing market. And all of that is stuff that really degrades the quality of life, not only at HBCUs, but at every school. So students want to see a sustainable long-term plan so that quality of life not only improves for them, but for generations of Howard students to come. You don't come to Howard to have substandard living conditions. You don't come to Howard, the most prominent black school there is, with apologies to Grambling and my own Alabama A&M, you don't come to Howard expecting to have a rough and tumble, roughing it type situation. So students want to see a plan that benefits students who come long after them, and I applaud them for looking into the future and caring about those who aren't even on campus yet.
Yeah, we don't have to apologize to our alma maters, Don. I think for this story, we could give them Mecca, we could give them leading institution. Anyway, thank you so much, Don Calloway, for being on the show tonight. I really appreciate you sharing your piece with us tonight.